Okay guys, we're here to discuss the magic and the art that is Steins Gate. It's few times you run across a series that keeps you compelled and in anticipation, wondering what's going to happen next. But then again, that's a true mark of a good storyteller. A good storyteller is able to keep the reader or the viewer or whatever medium they're using within their universe wanting more, in a sense. And Steins Gate really delivers on that. But we're not here to talk about Steins Gate. We're here to talk about Steins Gate 0, and although I'll admit it's not as great as the original series, it's still a pretty amazing series. So what is Steins Gate 0? Okay, let's get right into it. Steins Gate 0 is based on the Beta World Line, a world line in which Okabe fails to save Kurisu, a world line in which Okabe is filled with guilt, and a world line in which Okabe is depressed. Okabe in this world line prefers not to think or dwell upon his emotions, but to ignore them completely. And he's not engaged in any means with his friends. And there's no more Hyaoin Kiyoma, and he's just focused on getting into college or just finding a career path. And he's no longer dwelling in any way on time travel. And we know that he feels his guilt about Kurisu dying at his own hands unintentionally, but he prefers to ignore them. But his friends do realize, especially Mayuri. See, Mayuri sees Okabe like this, and although she respects his decision upon not trying to time travel or not trying again, she does miss Hyaoin Kiyoma, and she does miss the original Okabe, the Okabe that she grew up with. And it's here that we learn that Mayuri actually cares about Okabe a lot more than we initially thought. Mayuri would go to such lengths that she'd allow herself to be erased completely from the world line just for Okabe to smile. And I mean, it's really amazing to see that this is how Mayuri truly felt about Okabe. And I mean, someone that would go to such lengths just to see a smile on someone's face then again, Mayuri is really too pure for this world. Mayuri is just amazing. But let me just show you a quick clip on how that shows you that Mayuri actually loves Okabe.
シーにとっての彦星様は、あの時からずっと一人だけ、私、おかりんのことが好き。多分、クリスさんと同じくらい。違う。絶対に、クリスさんに負けないくらいずっと。それでも、私にとっての彦星様は、岡部倫太郎以外にはいないもん。
So it's here that we see that Mayuri no longer wants to just agree with Okabe's decision, but she wants to, even if Okabe doesn't want to, she'd put herself in the position in which she'd be the one to time travel and convince former Okabe to try again. And she just would go to those lengths just because she cares that much about Okabe. And it's here where she has this idea with Suzuha to time travel with Suzuha back to that moment where Kurisu died and convince Okabe, aka Ocarine. But before we get to that, remember when I was saying that Okabe was not in touch with his emotions at all and he preferred to not reflect upon them? That is until he met Amadeus. You see, Amadeus is an AI built upon Kurisu's memories. So essentially, Amadeus is the embodiment of Kurisu. However, she does not share the memories that Okabe had with Kurisu. And that's simply because she's not from the Alpha world line, the world line in which Kurisu could have survived. But she's from the Beta world line in which Kurisu does die. And in the world line where Kurisu dies means that she and Okabe never meet. So Amadeus does not have those memories because in this world line they never happened. But Okabe, due to his reading Steiner ability, does remember these moments, obviously. And it is due to this that he feels such a connection to this AI Amadeus, and although it's unhealthy because she's an AI, this Amadeus also feels a genuine connection with Okabe, and although she cannot explain it, it does help Okabe get more in touch with the emotions. I'm just going to show you a quick scene for you to understand that this actually does compel Okabe to get more in touch with the emotions somehow.
もしかして今のが正解？
勝手に話を進めるな。
だったらちゃんと答えなさい。あなたが好きなハリウッド女優にクリスティーナなんちゃらとかいう人がいてつい呼んでしまった。
違う。
2、昔付き合ってた彼女。いや、これはないわね。ごめんなさい。
答えを聞きたいんだよな。
え？
照れくさかったんだ。
え？
素直に名前を呼べなかったから、あえて茶化した。なんで赤くなってるんだ？
赤くなんかなってなんかないし！女の子扱いされるなんて思ってなんかなかったとか、そんなことは決してないからな！え？先輩！
平城さん、何を？
言ったでしょ、マキセ・クリスは死んだの。死んだ。
So let's get right back to Suzuha, Mayuri, and time traveling. They do set out to time travel behind Okabe's back because they know he would not approve. However, they do use Hyajo-san, and they do allow Hyajo-san and Daru to know, and they are aware, and it's through this that Daru does give out that they are going to time travel. When Okabe finds out about this, he's so angry that he just tries to stop them, but he's too late because the organization does get a hold of Mayuri and Suzuha and destroys their time machine in the process, killing them both. Now, that was hard for Okabe to see, but it did compel him to time travel, at least enough to change the world line, at least enough to save Mayuri and Suzuha. And that was what he initially set out to do, save Mayuri and Suzuha. So he does allow the time leap machine that Daru and Miyagi-san was working on, and he uses it to time leap several times, and he time leaps so many times that eventually he ends up in the future. But before he ended up in the future, each time that he time leaped, he was failing, and Mayuri and Suzuha was dying and dying and dying again, and it was similar to that scene in Steins Gate where Mayuri was constantly dying. So it was another toll on Okabe's mind. But see, with Okabe in the year 2025, he learned from the future versions of everyone else that he was caught by the organization and that he was so beat down that his body was pretty much considered lifeless. So essentially 2011 Okabe's consciousness had jumped to 2025 Okabe's consciousness. And it was here that he tried to find a way to get back to his 2011 consciousness just to save Mayuri and to attain Steins Gate. And with enough, with enough leaps, he's able to jump back into his 2011 consciousness with the information from the future. And I'm not going to spoil too much right there because I'm already spoiling a lot. But he's able to buy at least a 2-second window in which Mayuri and Suzuha are allowed to time leap to the past in order for Beta World Line, that's what we're going to call Mayuri from Steins Gate 0. So Beta World Line Mayuri, she was able to convince Alpha World Line Mayuri to compel Okabe and to not give up on him, and to find a way in order that he'd be able to feel that he's able to save Kurisu. And she does this through a phone call, through Okabe's phone. And she's in the time machine, but she and Suzuha from the Beta World Line cannot stay in the Alpha World Line simply because it would cause a paradox. So Suzuha, with a time machine with limited fuel, sets it to just travel, and they end up in 1800 BC. Before they time travel, however, there was one person who was not about the idea of Mayuri time traveling with Suzuha. And this person was Kagari. We see that Kagari was Mayuri's adopted daughter in the future. And a world line in which Kurisu does not die is a world line in which Mayuri does not adopt Kagari. And a world line in which Mayuri does not adopt Kagari is a world line in which Kagari doesn't have Mayuri as a mother. And Mayuri is not, and Kagari is not interested in this idea. So she and Suzuha fight it out until Mayuri is able, she literally puts her head between Suzuha and Kagari's guns, because she does not want them to fight, and she does not want them to kill each other. And what she tells Kagari is she could come on the right, and that she promises that she would never forget Kagari. And Kagari does not go on the ride because Okabe promises Kagari that he would not let Mayuri die or be lost in time, that he would retrieve her. And you can see that it was from when 2025 Okabe leaped back into his 2011 consciousness that Hyao and Kiyoma was reborn. And he's able to convince Kagari in that Mayuri trusts Okabe. So in that sense, she's able to trust Okabe that he would not allow a mother to die, convincing his former self. It's pretty deep. So I'm sure if you haven't watched Steins Gate, you're probably like, what does that mean? That's weird. But what happens next is later on in the series, Okabe does keep that promise. And as Suzuha and Mayuri have the time travel with limited fuel, they just end up in any time period. They end up in 1800 BC. And within the time afterwards, as Okabe grew up and became his 2025 self, he does build a time machine to set out to save Suzuha and Mayuri, because Okabe is a man of his word. And he does find a way to attain Steins Gate. And the way in which he attains Steins Gate is with the Alpha World Line and the Beta World Line working hand in hand. And it's through this in which he says, in order to attain Steins Gate, you must be able to deceive your former self, deceive the world, and attain Steins Gate. But just before he leaves, Yajo-san asks, aren't you supposed to die this year, which is 2025? And he says, yes. Essentially, this is what he says, yes, but if I'm not in this world line, wouldn't it be like I'm considered dead? So, I digress. He sets out to retrieve Suzuha and Mayuri. And it leads us to this epic ending scene right here. So the verdict, what do I think of Steins Gate 0? Well, Steins Gate 0 is one of those science fiction series. And if you're not a fan of science, you probably may not like it. But if you are, you would. And if you've seen Steins Gate, then be sure to check it out, because why not? If you've seen Steins Gate, I'm sure you wondered, where did that video message come from? Why did Mayuri slap Okabe? Well, it's all here. She time leaps. She time leaps to sacrifice herself, just so Okabe could be happy. And this is still an amazing series, and it's still a compelling series that had me at the edge of my feet every week waiting for what's going to happen next. And I think if you're a fan of anime, or you even haven't watched anime at all, you would enjoy Steins Gate 0, and you would enjoy Steins Gate. So be sure to check out Steins Gate first, then Steins Gate 0 to get a better understanding of the series, if you're interested. But until then, if you can just subscribe and keep loving anime. Peace, guys.